Chapter 2791. Sneak Attack. Jian Wushuang's second reincarnation sword formation was too powerful, and it was a sword formation that could be controlled by consciousness. In a head-on collision, it did not need to withstand the rebounding force of the impact, but the East God did, and the force was surprisingly strong. Although the East God's divine body was strong and its protective ability was not weak, it could not completely offset the impact. Therefore, every head-on collision, his divine body would suffer a certain degree of impact. In just a dozen impacts, the East God's divine body had already suffered a certain degree of damage, but the East God did not pay any attention to it. He was like a madman. He continued to collide head-on with the reincarnation sword formation. The East God clearly knows that he can't fight head-on with my reincarnation sword formation, but he still wants to fight head-on? As a peak divine master and the ruler of a top force, how could he be so stupid? Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes slightly. Just as he was puzzled. Buzz! An invisible force directly attacked Jian Wushuang without any warning. Jian Wushuang did not react at all, but the purple emperor bell in his body, which had been refined by him, suddenly burst out with powerful power. A huge purple barrier formed a purple bell that completely covered Jian Wushuang. The invisible power acted on the purple bell at the first moment. Although the power eventually passed through the purple bell, the power had been weakened by more than half. It's a soul attack. Jian Wushuang was startled and his pupils shrank. After being greatly weakened by the purple bell, the soul attack directly entered Jian Wushuang's body and ferociously attacked the real soul in his sea of consciousness. However, around Jian Wushuang's real soul, a towering and sturdy tower stood there. It was the Exquisite Pagoda. The Exquisite Pagoda was purely a soul defense secret skill, which had an amazing ability to defend against the soul. After being weakened by the purple emperor bell, the soul attack hit the Exquisite Pagoda, which shook it crazily, but it did not destroy the Exquisite Pagoda. This sudden and extremely powerful soul attack was easily blocked by Jian Wushuang's double soul defense. Humph! Jian Wushuang snorted and scanned the surroundings with his cold eyes. In the blink of an eye, he had focused his eyes on a black-clothed woman. The black-clothed woman had a unique aura. Although she was only a junior great divine master, the soul power around her was extremely strong. In terms of soul power, she was extremely strong among senior great divine masters. Therefore, she could use her soul attack to fight against ordinary senior great divine masters. She even had a high chance of winning. Just now, the black-clothed woman suddenly used her soul attack to sneak attack Jian Wushuang. Now that she failed to hit him and Jian Wushuang looked at her again, a trace of panic flashed in the black-clothed woman's eyes. Her body swayed, and the black-clothed woman wanted to escape. You want to escape? Jian Wushuang's eyes were cold, and a strong killing intent rose from his body. He slowly raised his left palm and pointed in the direction of the black-clothed woman. He immediately used the heaven-pointing skill. Although the black-clothed woman was good at soul attacks and her soul techniques were very impressive, she was only a novice great divine master and had no knowledge of the space-time rules. Naturally, she could not block Jian Wushuang's move. In an instant, her fleeing figure froze in the void. Jian Wushuang's figure flashed past the black-clothed woman easily. The cold sword light had already killed the black-clothed woman. Sneak attack me. Jian Wushuang's voice was extremely cold. In the void not far away, the East God, who had been madly colliding with the giant blackwood formed by the Samsara sword formation, saw this and his expression could not help but change. Damn it, he actually blocked it. The East God did not dare to do so. Jian Wushuang had also realized that. He knew that his divine power was no match for me, so he risked his divine body to fight me head-on. He thought that the East God was stupid, but now it seems that the head-on fight was just a pretense. His real goal was to attract my attention and create a perfect opportunity for the woman to kill me directly with a soul attack. Jian Wushuang's face was a little gloomy. He was right. That was the plan of the East God. The East God knew that he might not be able to kill Jian Wushuang, so he had a backup plan. In his opinion, Jian Wushuang's rise was too fast, and his realm was rising too fast. His realm was rising so fast, but in terms of the soul, it was probably not as fast. The East God had guessed that Jian Wushuang's soul might be his weakness, so he had specially arranged this move. He had also told the black-clothed woman in advance. However, He had not expected that Jian Wushuang's soul defense skill would be so amazing. The black-clothed woman's soul attack was so sudden that it was difficult for a senior divine master to block it, but Jian Wushuang had blocked it. Now that the black-clothed woman had been killed by Jian Wushuang, his plan had failed. It was obviously not rational to continue fighting with Jian Wushuang's reincarnation sword formation. Therefore, he was ready to retreat. However, at this time, Jian Wushuang's eyes suddenly focused. "East God, take my move too." Jian Wushuang's cold voice echoed in the sky. His figure flashed, and under the effect of the space-time rule power, he was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in the void in front of East God. Then he pointed out with one hand. This move, East God's face changed greatly. Whether it was the face-to-face confrontation between the Sword Union and the Divine Demon Sect many years ago, or the collision between Jian Wushuang and the Blood Thunder King and the Heaven Void Palace, he had seen Jian Wushuang use this move many times. He was well aware of how terrifying this move was. It could be said that it was largely because of this move that Jian Wushuang was able to play a key role in the two wars and slaughter numerous great divine masters without restraint. This move could freeze time and space for a short period of time. It was because he knew that the moment he saw Jian Wushuang perform this move, the East God subconsciously wanted to dodge. However, he had underestimated the power of the heaven-designated skill. Before Jian Wushuang had used the 7-star secret skill, he had been able to defeat an advanced great divine master. Only an expert like Su Dao, who had a profound understanding of space-time rules, would be slightly affected. However, now that Jian Wushuang had used the 7-star secret skill, his divine power was extremely powerful even among peak great divine masters. If he used this move again, even a peak great divine master would not be able to withstand it. Chapter 2792. B.A. Xianxia. Without any warning, the space-time where East God was located completely came to a standstill. Even East God himself was in a state of complete stagnation. He did not move at all, and his consciousness was also in a state of stagnation. Meanwhile, in the void around East God, the giant black tree formed by the 9 Hellblood divine swords once again charged out with a world-shaking might. In the blink of an eye, the giant blackwood appeared in front of the East God, less than 10 meters away from him. At this point, the East God finally broke free from the space-time stagnation. Oh no! As soon as he broke free, he saw the giant blackwood crazily rushing toward him, so he naturally knew what had happened. Without any hesitation, the East God swung the giant axe in his right hand. If he had faced Jian Wushuang's reincarnation sword formation earlier, he would have used all his strength to fight back with the giant axe. Even so, he was still suppressed. However, he did not have the time to use the giant axe with all his strength. It was already good enough for him to use part of the power of the giant axe. Bang! There was a loud sound. The right arm of the East God holding the giant axe was numb. That violent power directly transmitted into his divine body. Even Dong Shun's divine body began to tremble violently under the impact of this tyrannical power. A trace of blood also leaked out from the corner of his mouth. However, before he could completely endure the impact of this attack. Buzz! A sword light suddenly lit up. This sword light was incomparably beautiful. There was also a bit of confusion in the sword light, causing one to be intoxicated. The instant the sword light lit up, East God had already sensed it, and even he was immediately attracted by this intoxicated sword light. He stared fixedly at this sword light, but a trace of terror arose in his heart. The reason why he was terrified was because this sword light was too fast. It was indeed fast, unbelievably fast. Even if he attacked normally, he might not have the confidence to completely block this sword light. And now, he had just received the impact of the reincarnation sword formation, and before he could completely recover, he was hit by this sudden sword, this sword. He had no way to swing the huge axe to block it. He couldn't even place the huge axe horizontally in front of his chest. The only thing he could do was to have a layer of blood-red barrier appear on the surface of his body, and the protective armor on his body instantly covered his entire body. Kai! The beautiful sword light cut through the blood-red barrier, but it did not last long before it collapsed. Then the sword light continued to cut on the protective armor of the East God. The protective armor of the East God was a top-tier divine treasure-level protective armor, which had an amazing defensive ability. Jian Wushuang's sword attack could not cut through the armor, but the enormous power was still weakened through the armor. It was transmitted to the divine body of the East God. Even the East God's face turned pale and he spat out a mouthful of blood after being hit by this powerful attack. His body flew backward like a kite that had lost its string. His aura was also greatly weakened. It was obvious that he had suffered a serious injury. Is not dead? Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes. He felt a little regretful, but more than that, he felt relieved. After all, the East God was a powerful great divine master at the peak, and he was also the sect master of the divine demon sect. The divine demon sect had a deep heritage, so it must be protected by a protective armor at the level of a superior divine treasure. With his current strength, it was indeed too difficult to kill a great divine master at the peak who had a protective armor at the peak. If he used all his trump cards and methods, it might be possible. But no matter what, Dongshan had been seriously injured by him, and his strength would be greatly reduced. Whoosh! After Dongshan finally stabilized himself, he immediately rushed toward the battlefield at his fastest speed. There was a trace of fear in his eyes. Obviously, he was frightened by Jian Wushuang's strength, so he did not dare to continue fighting with Jian Wushuang. You ran away so fast. Seeing that the East God chose to avoid the fight, Jian Wushuang smiled coldly. Then, he looked at the surrounding battlefields, and his face darkened. Indeed, he fought with the East God and defeated him. He also killed a junior great divine master who was good at soul attacks. However, in the other battlefields around him, the Red Stone Castle, the Sword League, and the Alliance of the Four Forces were at an absolute disadvantage. It was a huge disadvantage. It was even higher than the highest battle strength. Boom! Boom! Two violent explosions suddenly sounded in the sky, and then two figures shot out like meteorites. The two people who shot out were Xianxia and Elder Tong. At this moment, they were in a terrible state, especially Xianxia. Her face was pale, her mouth and robe were stained with blood, and her aura was quite weak. How could it be? Jian Wushuang frowned. Xianxia and Elder Tong were both peak great divine masters. Needless to say, Xianxia had always been very strong. In the Pil Sun continent, she should be the strongest, except for Palace Master Nan Wu, who had defeated Yun Shan in a one-on-one fight. As for Elder Tong, when he was only an advanced great divine master, his battle strength was the best among the advanced great divine masters, and his comprehension of the rules was also very high. Once he broke through to become a peak great divine master, his battle strength was also very impressive. The two of them worked together with the help of his domain, but they were forced into such a sorry state by Palace Master Nan Wu. No. Jian Wushuang's pupils suddenly constricted. His eyes were like two bolts of lightning as he immediately looked toward the void where Palace Master Nan Wu was. However, at this moment, he found that Palace Master Nan Wu was not the only one in the void. There was also a cold and arrogant middle-aged man in a blood-red robe standing there. The cold and arrogant middle-aged man also emitted an extremely powerful aura. Although this aura was not as strong as Palace Master Nan Wu's, it was not weaker than Elder Tong's at his peak. This person, Jian Wushuang, stared at the middle-aged man in a blood-red robe. "Ba Xiong, it's you." Elder Tong also gnashed his teeth and stared at the man. "Elder Tong, long time no see. How have you been?" A cold smile appeared on the corner of the middle-aged man's mouth. "Ba Xiong, it's him." Jian Wushuang's face darkened. Xianxia and many experts from the Red Stone Castle and the Sword Union also had ugly looks on their faces. Ba Xiong was a well-known expert in the Pil Sun continent, and he was only an advanced great divine master before. They were both advanced great divine masters, but Ba Xiong's power was above that of Elder Tong. Some people in the Pil Sun continent even said that Ba Xiong should be the strongest among the advanced great divine masters, just like how Great Divine Master Ju Xin had always been called the strongest among the junior Great Divine Masters. Jian Wushuang had also heard of Ba Xiong's name. Chapter 2793, Leave it to me. Ba Xiong, I didn't expect you to have already broken through to the level of a peak great deity. Elder Tong's voice was ice cold. Haha, you're not the only one who's lucky. The blood-robed middle-aged man, Ba Xiong, smiled coldly. Old Monster Tong, you've stayed at the advanced great deity level for so many years, and you've tried to break through so many times. In the end, you've all failed, but you actually succeeded this time? And with your character, you actually listened to the Sword Union? If I'm not wrong, it must be this Sword Union that helped you break through. Moreover, the Sword Union should have given you an extreme royal golden core. With your ability, only by obtaining an extreme royal golden core can you have a chance of breaking through. Otherwise, you'll probably be stuck at the advanced Great Divine Master level for the rest of your life. Aren't you the same? Elder Tong said coldly. Yes, it's the same. Your luck isn't bad. The Sword Union gave you an extreme Emperor golden core, but my luck isn't as good as yours. Not long ago, Palace Master Nan Wu also obtained an extreme Emperor golden core, and Palace Master Nan Wu gave it to me. Because of this, I was able to break through and reach the peak Great Deity level. And as a condition, I'll be a consecrator of the Nan Wu Palace for 10,000 years. During this period, if Palace Master Nan Wu has anything to ask of me, I naturally can't refuse, Xianxia said with a smile. Is that so? Elder Tong and everyone present understood. Jian Wushuang's face darkened slightly. Nan Wugong had indeed obtained an Aurus core of the royal realm, which had been auctioned right under his nose. He had never known what Nan Wugong had done with the Aurus core of the royal realm, but now it seemed that Palace Master Nan Wugong was also very clever. He had used an Aurus core of the royal realm to hire a powerful helper. Xianxia was slightly stronger than Elder Tong when he was at the senior Great Divine Master level. Now that he had broken through to the peak Great Divine Master level, his battle strength was naturally slightly stronger than Elder Tong. Xianxia and Elder Tong worked together. It was already very difficult to deal with Palace Master Nan Wu, and with Xianxia. They would naturally be crushed. Xianxia, you probably didn't expect it, right? You're not the only one who has prepared a backup plan for this battle. Palace Master Nan Wu also sneered. Xianxia and Elder Tong's expressions were extremely unsightly. But at this moment, Xianxia, you're seriously injured and your battle strength has been greatly reduced. It's no longer suitable for you to fight with Palace Master Nan Wu. I'll leave the East God to you. Jian Wushuang's voice suddenly rang out. At this critical moment, Jian Wushuang no longer humbly called Xianxia as his lord. Instead, he directly called her by her name. Even his tone was somewhat unquestionable. Elder Tong, I'll leave Xianxia to you. Your injuries are light, so he shouldn't be able to do anything to you in the short term, Jian Wushuang said again. Upon hearing this, Xianxia and Elder Tong were both surprised. Jian Yi, we fought against Dongshen and Xianxia respectively. What about Palace Master Nan Wu? He's the strongest among all the people present. If we don't find someone to stop him, he'll probably be able to kill all the great divine masters in our camp, Xianxia said in a deep voice. Yes, although Xianxia and Dongshen are difficult to deal with, Palace Master Nan Wu is the most terrifying, Elder Tong said solemnly. Don't worry, just do as I say. As for Palace Master Nan Wu, leave it to me, Jian Wushuang said in a deep voice. What? Xianxia and Elder Tong were both shocked. Leave him to deal with Nan Wu Palace, who could not even be defeated by the two of them working together. Was he kidding? Listen to me. Hurry up, or it will be too late, Jian Wushuang shouted. Hearing this, Xianxia and Elder Tong looked at Jian Wushuang deeply. Although they had many doubts and did not think that Jian Wushuang could stop Palace Master Nan Wu, at this critical moment, they could not afford to delay any longer. If they delayed any longer, the entire battlefield would be at a greater disadvantage. Immediately, the two people moved. Xianxia directly attacked the East God. She was stronger than the East God. Although she was seriously injured, the East God was more seriously injured, so it was easy for her to suppress the East God. As for Elder Tong, he was also fighting with Xianxia. In the center of the battlefield, Jian Wushuang had already arrived in front of Palace Master Nan Wu. Sword 1. Palace Master Nan Wu crossed her arms and stared at Jian Yi. Then she glanced at the miserable-looking Eastern God and could not help smiling. You seriously injured Eastern God? It seems that I have underestimated you. When you fought with the Heaven Void Palace, Blood Thunder King, and the others, you didn't use your full strength. I see. But you didn't use your full strength when you fought with Xianxia and Elder Tong, did you? Jian Wushuang stared at Palace Master Nan Wu. The corners of Palace Master Nan Wu's mouth curled up, but she did not say anything. Do you think you can stop me by yourself? Palace Master Nan Wu said with a condescending tone. How would I know if I don't try? Jian Wushuang smiled indifferently, but he did not waste any more words. With a wave of his hand, the giant blackwood formed by the 9 Netherblood divine swords appeared immediately. The vast power of reincarnation filled the air, and the giant blackwood carried a shocking power. Under Jian Wushuang's full power, it suddenly rushed out. It was like a giant black meteorite that fiercely charged toward Palace Master Nan Wu. What a joke! Palace Master Nan Wu smiled disdainfully and suddenly flipped his right palm. He casually slapped the black meteorite. The fierce and powerful black meteorite instantly stopped in the void, and then flew backward. It took a long time for it to calm down. Palace Master Nan Wu stood in the void and did not move. After he struck the Samsara sword formation, he looked at his palm and slightly raised his eyebrows, as expected of someone who can seriously injure the East God. The power of your sword formation is indeed not weak. With this sword formation alone, you can already suppress many peak great divine paragons. Unfortunately, you met me. With that, Palace Master Nan Wu waved his hand again. This time, he did not take it lightly. Instead, he struck out with his palm. A layer of black divine thunder surged in the center of his palm. This black divine thunder contained the power to destroy the world. As he struck out with his palm, the world suddenly exploded. Endless black divine thunder blotted out the sky and covered the earth. In the blink of an eye, it formed a white and tall thunder beast. The thunder beast roared crazily and attacked Jian Wushuang. Go! Jian Wushuang's eyes were cold. He once again drove the reincarnation sword formation and rushed out. Behind him, the 30,000-meter tall Golden Emperor also burst out a dazzling golden light. The same black giant tree attacked, and its power was slightly stronger than before. Jian Wushuang had used all of his strength in this attack. P.S. Today is the 6th watch, and there will be another one later. Wait a moment. Chapter 2794. Number 1 expert of Danyang. In the blink of an eye, the giant black tree was about to collide with the giant black thunder beast. As a result, roar! The giant black thunder beast roared and opened its bloody mouth, swallowing the giant black tree in one gulp. What? Jian Wushuang's expression changed. Although the sword formation was swallowed by the thunder beast, Jian Wushuang was still able to sense it. He immediately wanted to activate the power of the sword formation and blast it away. However, he soon found that the destructive power of the Black Thunder Beast was far stronger than his sword formation. His sword formation collapsed under the impact of the power. The 9 underworld blood swords were also attacked by the Black Thunder. The 9 underworld blood swords exploded in an instant. SHT. Jian Wushuang's face darkened. The Samsara sword formation was one of his many skills, and it was more powerful than his swordsmanship. However, now that the 9 underworld blood swords had exploded, he could not build a new sword formation. Your sword formation is indeed powerful, but now that I've destroyed it, I'd like to see what else you can do. Palace Master Nan Wu sneered. After the Black Thunder Beast swallowed the sword formation and destroyed the 9 Netherblood divine swords, he pointed with his right hand, and the Thunder Beast continued to charge toward Jian Wushuang. In the blink of an eye, the Black Thunder Beast had appeared in front of Jian Wushuang. It immediately turned into a majestic black thunder power and completely covered Jian Wushuang, giving him no chance to escape. Crackle! Crackle! The black thunder crazily destroyed everything. The void where Jian Wushuang was completely enveloped by the black thunder. Not far away from the void, Palace Master Nan Wu looked at the void with a sneer. Even an ordinary peak great divine paragon wouldn't be able to survive this move of mine. As for this sword one, even if he survived, his ending would probably be extremely miserable. Palace Master Nan Wu had absolute confidence in this move. To be exact, she had absolute confidence in her own strength. He had broken through to become a peak great divine paragon a long time ago, and he was already an extremely powerful existence among peak great divine paragons. Even in the entire Golden Crow 9 realms, there were only a handful of peak great divine paragons who could defeat him. However, he was truly invincible in the Pill Sun continent. No one was his match. For example, when he fought with Xianxia and Elder Tong just now, he didn't use his full strength, but Xianxia and Elder Tong were still suppressed by him. It was the same even when two peak great deity realm experts joined hands. What was this sword one? The black lightning power that filled the sky finally dissipated, and the void reappeared in everyone's sight. However, upon seeing the scene in the void, the expression of Palace Master Nan Wu, who had been somewhat proud, changed slightly. Jian Wushuang was still standing in the void with a cold expression, holding a long sword in his hand. However, he did not look embarrassed at all, not even the corner of his clothes had changed. Clearly, the destructive attack of the Black Thunderbolt did not have any effect on him. To be exact, it had no effect on him at all. Because there was a purple barrier on the surface of Jian Wushuang's body. The purple barrier was a purple bell, which was extremely powerful and blocked the impact of the Black Thunderbolt. After blocking it, although the color of the purple bell had dimmed and its power had been greatly weakened, the purple bell still existed. A protective treasure. Palace Master Nan Wu's face darkened slightly. It was able to completely block my attack. The power of the protective treasure is really impressive. Unfortunately, it's useless. No matter how strong the protective treasure is, it can only passively defend itself. As it continues to be attacked, the power of your treasure will continue to weaken. The purple bell will directly disappear. At that time, you will still die. Palace Master Nan Wu's cold voice echoed in the world. Hearing this, Jian Wushuang smiled coldly and said, "Passive defense? I don't intend to keep defending passively." As he said this, Jian Wushuang's expression changed and a ray of light surged out of his divine body and fell into his hand. It was an ancient painting scroll. This ancient painting scroll was the Mountain River Map. The Mountain and River Map had always been one of Jian Wushuang's biggest trump cards. He rarely used this trump card. He didn't even plan to use it unless it was absolutely necessary, because the Mountain and River Map would cause too much commotion. Others could tell at a glance that this was definitely an extraordinary treasure. Because of this, even if he used this treasure, he would usually only use it in a one-on-one situation where no one around could see him. But now, I have no choice. Palace Master Nan Wu is too strong. If I want to fight him head-on, I have to use this treasure, let alone defeat him, Jian Wushuang muttered and then waved his hand. The ancient scroll immediately turned into a golden light and merged into the surrounding void. In an instant, the sky and earth changed color. Within the boundless void space, an incomparably beautiful painting world appeared out of thin air. This painting world was extremely lifelike. There were mountains and rivers within the world, and there were even 9 gigantic continents. This is... Palace head Nan Wu raised her head to look at the void space above, and couldn't help but frown. The experts from both sides who were currently engaged in a frenzied battle on the battlefield at the side were also the first to notice the changes in the void space. What is this? A world? What a real world! What kind of treasure is this? The experts from both sides were shocked. They all knew that this wonderful world was formed because Jian Wushuang took out a treasure. But they didn't know what this treasure was, or what kind of treasure it was, or what its function was. However, the moment this marvelous world appeared, they could already tell that this treasure was extraordinary. There was nothing they could do, because the world in the void was too real and too spectacular. Standing under this void, they could not help but feel a trace of awe. And at this moment, buzz buzz! A shocking sword intent suddenly swept up, and everyone present felt that the world around them had begun to change. They had originally been in the vast void above Executor's city, but in the blink of an eye, they had already appeared on a desolate empty land. On this empty land, there were many swords. There were long swords, flexible swords, heavy swords, and all sorts of things, but without a doubt, each of these swords had an astonishing aura. But on this vast empty land, there were thousands of long swords stabbed into the ground. This was a sword tomb, a huge sword tomb. P.S. It's the 6th watch today, I want everything. Chapter 2795, World of Sword Principle. The sword essence in the huge sword tomb soared to the sky. Jian Wushuang was at the core of the sword tomb, like the master of sword principle. In a short moment, the world of sword principle and the world of treasures had been formed. This is the transformation of heaven and earth. I feel like I'm in another world. The sword essence in this world is too strong. Change the world? What kind of technique is this? The experts on the battlefield instantly understood their situation. They also understood that the world they were in had already changed. They were all extremely shocked. Even Palace Master Nan Wu looked at Jian Wushuang with great shock and shock. Changed the world. What a great treasure. There was even a trace of heat in the deepest part of Palace Master Nan Wu's eyes. However, even if you use that treasure and change the surrounding environment, what can you do? Can you do anything to me? Although he was surprised by Jian Wushuang's skill, Palace Master Nan Wu did not care. After all, he had absolute strength as a support, so he was absolutely confident. I'll let you know. Jian Wushuang just smiled slightly and slowly raised his hand. Condense. With a light smile, a majestic sword essence immediately condensed in the void in front of Jian Wushuang. With the help of the world of sword principle, the sword essence became solid. Buzz, buzz, a large amount of reincarnation power spread out. In the void, the powerful reincarnation sword formation appeared again. This time, Jian Wushuang did not use a magic weapon. He just relied on the sword essence to condense the reincarnation sword formation. Even so, the power was still amazing. After the sword formation was completely formed, Jian Wushuang pointed out with one hand. The Samsara sword formation once again shot toward Palace Master Nan Wu. Palace Master Nan Wu stood there with a cold expression. A faint black thunderbolt power gathered on his right palm. He immediately struck out with his palm. The powerful palm, which contained a powerful destructive power, collided with the Samsara sword formation. The Samsara sword formation directly collapsed and dissipated into nothingness. However, Palace Master Nan Wu also took a step back. Just by relying on the sword intent, this sword formation isn't weaker than when he used the divine weapon. Palace Master Nan Wu frowned. However, at this moment, beside Palace Master Nan Wu, buzz buzz buzz. A shocking sword intent swept out. This sword intent was extremely huge and condensed at an astonishing speed. In the blink of an eye, a huge phantom of an emperor appeared in the void on the left and right sides of the Golden Southern Palace. These two phantom emperors held the emperor's sword in their hands. It contained a powerful emperor's aura. Without any fancy moves, the two phantom emperors slashed the emperor's sword directly at Palace Master Nan Wu. The ice-cold sword edge swept across all directions. What is this? Palace Master Nan Wu's face darkened. He could see that the two phantom emperors were formed purely by sword essence. The key was that the sword essence contained in the two phantom emperors was too vast and huge. Therefore, the sword skill that the phantom emperors slashed out, even he did not dare to underestimate them. The Thousand Treasures Great World is one of the secret skills of the Mountain River map. This move is very useful. It is not only to change the surrounding environment and the heaven and earth, so that the heaven and earth environment has a great advantage over one's own strength. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. It had been a while since he had obtained the Mountain River map in this life and the beginning. His comprehension of the Thousand Treasures Great World was indeed very crude. He could only barely construct a heaven and earth environment that was suitable for him to fight in. But now, as his strength continued to increase, his comprehension of the laws also continued to increase. His control of the Thousand Treasures Great World also became stronger and stronger. He could use many of the techniques in the Thousand Treasures Great World. For example, in the world of Sword Dao, he could use the sword intent in the world of Sword Dao to condense everything in the world. He could condense a divine weapon, condense an emperor's shadow, and fight with his opponent. Furthermore, this world of Sword Dao had greatly increased his strength in Sword Dao. It could be said that in this world of Sword Dao, he was the ruler. Facing the two emperor's swords that were slashing at him from the left and right, Palace Master Nan Wu first retreated. Then, a large amount of black lightning surged out. These black lightning instantly condensed into two black lightning dragons in the void. They roared as they met the two emperor's swords head-on. Hua la la, the two emperor's swords were completely shattered. Even the two emperor's shadows that appeared beside Palace Master Nan Wu were destroyed by the black lightning dragons. Sword One, is that all you can do? Palace Master Nan Wu was calm, and there was a hint of contempt on the corner of her mouth. He, don't worry. My world of sword principle is not as simple as what you see now. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly, but he clenched his right hand tightly. The Blood Mountain sword in his hand seemed to have sensed the battle intent rising from the bottom of his heart. the body of the sword also began to tremble crazily. Rumble. The pressure of the four realms was still pressing crazily. With the help of the world of sword principle, the perfect sword world that Jian Wushuang created within a range of 100,000 kilometers had a great deterrent effect. Even Palace Master Nan Wu was shocked at this moment. This kid's sword world is really strong, Palace Master Nan Wu muttered. But at this moment, Jian Wushuang had already moved. Whoosh! Under the effect of the space-time rule, Jian Wushuang was extremely fast. He appeared in front of Palace Master Nan Wu in an instant. Then, Jian Wushuang attacked. The beautiful sword light lit up, so beautiful that it could break one's heart. The sword light was hazy with a hint of intoxication, which made people yearn for it. It was the 7th move of space-time swordsmanship, Intoxication 1 move. The same Intoxication 1 move was also used with all one's strength. However, it was completely different when it was used in the ordinary world and now in the sword principle world. In terms of speed, it was much faster. In terms of power, it was also much stronger. Even the essence contained in the sword was deeper. However, in the face of this sword, Palace Master Nan Wu just smiled faintly and casually struck out with one palm. The void shook. Bang! Palace Master Nan Wu's palm, which was filled with black thunderbolt power, directly struck the body of the Blood Mountain sword. The Blood Mountain sword slightly changed its direction and the sword force instantly disintegrated. However, Jian Wushuang did not retreat at all. He waved his wrist. He actually continued to attack. Whoosh! 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 Sword lights swept out one after another. Jian Wushuang displayed his swordsmanship to the fullest with his close combat ability. You want to fight me in close combat? How dare you? Palace Master Nan Wu shouted, and then he also attacked. Chapter 2796. Killing move. Palace Master Nan Wu had risen from endless slaughter many years ago. When he rose, countless experts had died at his hands, and anyone who fought with Palace Master Nan Wu knew that Palace Master Nan Wu was best at close combat. Boom! Palace Head Nan Wu's body suddenly expanded to 3 meters tall, and his body became as sturdy as a bull. On the surface of his sturdy body, there was a layer of black lightning energy covered by a secret manual. His 2 palms were also covered by black lightning. They were like 2 black thunderclouds. Boom! 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 The 2 black thunderclouds had the power to topple mountains and overturn seas as they struck out crazily. In an instant, thunder rumbled, and the surrounding void completely fell into a thunder field. However, the thunder field was quickly torn apart by the terrifying sword essence. In the center of the battlefield, Jian Wushuang and Palace Master Nan Wu fought crazily. They exchanged blows again and again. Both of them exerted their close combat abilities to the maximum. Jian Wushuang had also displayed his swordsmanship to the fullest. With the help of the sword principle world, Jian Wushuang's every move was extremely powerful and fast. This kid's overall strength has increased so much in the sword principle world. His swordsmanship is amazing. Palace Master Nan Wu did not dare to be careless and attacked with all his strength. Even so, he and Jian Wushuang were evenly matched in a short period of time. Bang! 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 A low sound of collision echoed in the sky. In just a few breaths, Jian Wushuang and Palace Master Nan Wu had exchanged hundreds of blows in the void. Each exchange was extremely fierce. If it were an ordinary divine master, the recoil alone would have been unbearable. However, both Jian Wushuang and Palace Master Nan Wu were still in their peak condition. Needless to say, Jian Wushuang had an extremely powerful divine body and the most perfect immortal body. Ordinary people could not hurt him at all. As for Palace Master Nan Wu, his divine body was also extremely powerful, so he could completely ignore the recoil. During the battle, Palace Master Nan Wu also found that Jian Wushuang was no weaker than him in close combat. I, Nan Wu, rose from the endless slaughter and experienced countless battles and life-and-death battles to improve my close combat ability to this level. I believe that no one in the Pilsun Holy World can match me in close combat ability, but Jian Yi, he rose so quickly and obviously hasn't cultivated for long, but his close combat ability is also so strong. Palace Master Nan Wu was extremely shocked. What he did not know was that Jian Wushuang had only cultivated for a short period of time, but it was only for this life. In his previous life, he had experienced more killing and life and death tests than he had. In his previous life, he had forged an iron-like temperament and had a lot of experience in close combat. After all, he had the bloodline of the ancient race, and the ancient race's strongest ability was close combat. Therefore, Jian Wushuang's close combat ability had always been very strong, much stronger than that of an ordinary great divine master. He was not weaker than Palace Master Nan Wu at all. However, even though he was now on par with Palace Master Nan Wu with the support of the Sword Principal World and Domain, Jian Wushuang still could not be happy. After all, he had blocked the attack, but his camp was at an absolute disadvantage in the other battlefields, and the disadvantage was still growing. I can't continue like this. I have to find a way to turn the situation around. As for me, the only way to turn the situation around is to defeat or even kill Palace Master Nan Wu. Jian Wushuang stared at Palace Master Nan Wu with a cold gaze. Defeat or kill Palace Master Nan Wu. If it were anyone else in the Pil Sun's sacred world, they would not even dare to think about it. But he was different. It's difficult to gain the upper hand with the techniques he has just displayed, let alone defeat or kill him. I have no choice but to use my killer move. Jian Wushuang's face darkened. He had many techniques and many killer moves. But now, although he had shown many techniques and some killer moves, he still had the most terrifying killer moves. Having made up his mind, Jian Wushuang, who had been fighting fiercely with Palace Master Nan Wu, immediately retreated. At the same time, golden divine power surged out from his body. The golden divine power was vast and mighty. In the blink of an eye, it formed a huge golden divine power sea that filled the heaven and earth. Behind Jian Wushuang, the 30,000-meter tall Golden Emperor's eyes suddenly focused, and a golden light suddenly burst out. Then, the 30,000-meter tall Golden Emperor waved both of his palms at the same time. The two golden palms spread out in an instant and expanded infinitely, covering the sky and the sun. One palm covered half of the heaven and earth, and the two palms completely covered the surrounding void. The two palms slowly closed toward where Palace Master Nan Wu was. Punishment, divine destruction. Jian Wushuang also shouted. Terrifying divine power burst out from the two giant palms of the Golden Emperor. At the moment when they slowly closed, the void where Palace Master Nan Wu was completely confined. Endless divine power crazily pressed toward Palace Master Nan Wu. The divine destruction that came with the divine law divine realm was a move that relied on a large amount of divine power to annihilate the opponent. This move consumed a lot of divine power, but its power was earth-shaking. With Jian Wushuang's current strength of divine power, it was difficult for an ordinary peak divine master to survive this move. However, the one who was enduring this move was Palace Master Nan Wu, the publicly recognized #1 expert in the Pilsun continent. This move seems to be quite powerful. Sensing the surroundings slowly closing in on him and the endless divine power pressing toward him, even Palace Master Nan Wu's eyes suddenly focused. Immediately, a large amount of black thunderbolt power swept out from Palace Master Nan Wu's body. In the blink of an eye, the black thunderbolt power covered his entire body. The black thunderbolt power that filled the sky formed a huge ancient strange beast around him. This ancient strange beast had 4 huge heads. After taking shape, these 4 huge heads charged towards the 2 huge palms that were closing in from the surroundings. In the blink of an eye, these 4 huge strange beast heads collided with the 2 huge golden palms. Rumble, the world trembled. The sound of majestic divine power being crazily squeezed together with the sound of lightning energy sweeping through the void reverberated throughout the entire battlefield. Chapter 2797. God seals might on the battlefield. The battle was still raging like wildfire. However, when God Extinguisher clashed with the 4 heads of the black lightning beast condensed on Palace Master Nan Wu's body, that terrifying might attracted the gazes of all the experts on the battlefield. What a powerful power! It's one thing for Palace Master Nan Wu to be able to display such power, but that Swordsman's technique is actually so tyrannical? What a fellow! With such an intense collision of power, I'm afraid that we advanced great divine paragons would be killed the moment we get close. Even the weaker peak great divine paragons would have no choice but to retreat under such a collision. The experts from both sides were secretly amazed. All of them looked at the place where the two forces collided with horror in their eyes. In the center of the battlefield, under the cover of endless golden divine power, a pitch-black thunderbolt suddenly swept out. It was like a black saber cutting through the golden divine power ocean. Then, black thunderbolts surged wildly in the sky. Jian Wushuang's full-strength divine destruction move was actually blocked by Palace Master Nan Wu. Judging from Palace Master Nan Wu's current posture, she was only a little embarrassed, but her aura was not weak at all. Sword One, is this your strongest move? Palace Master Nan Wu looked at Jian Wushuang with lightning-like eyes. Strongest move? No, it's not. Jian Wushuang shook his head lightly. That move just now is far from enough. Palace Master Nan Wu's expression changed. In the next moment, as if he had sensed something, he immediately raised his head. When he raised his head, his pupils suddenly shrank. He saw that in the sky above him, in the scroll world that had always existed in the sky, a surge of supreme power had slowly descended. A huge handprint slowly descended from the scroll world. The mountain and river map was the 9-region seal and the 1,000 treasures great world. He had perfectly displayed the power of the 1,000 treasures great world. With the help of the sword principal world of the 1,000 treasures great world, his swordsmanship was so powerful that he was able to fight Palace Master Nan Wu. What Jian Wushuang was displaying now was the power of the other secret skill, the 9-region seal. The 9-region seal was the true power of the 9-region seal. The hand seal that was slowly descending from the scroll world was the divine emperor seal that Jian Wushuang had mastered by combining the first 3 moves of the 9-region seal. This move, Palace Master Nan Wu's expression changed slightly. He was under the giant hand seal, so he could clearly sense the destructive power contained in it. The power was much more powerful than the 2 giant golden palms that Jian Wushuang had slowly closed in on him and severely injured him. It was really much more powerful. He could easily resist the 2 golden palms that had slowly closed in on him. But now, the giant handprint that fell from the sky made him feel a little apprehensive. However, it was merely palpitating. Palace Master Nan Wu had dominated the Pill Sun sacred world for so many years. He had always been known as the #1 expert of the Pill Sun sacred world. His true strength was not as simple as that. After the enormous hand seal slowly descended, Palace Master Nan Wu's expression suddenly sank. After which, a black lightning seal suddenly appeared between his brows. The moment this black lightning seal appeared, swoosh! A large amount of black lightning energy crazily swept out from the mark. This black lightning energy was stronger and darker than Palace Master Nan Wu's god body. Then, this black lightning energy formed a second layer of black lightning armor on his body. Thunder Beast, Kirin. Palace Master Nan Wu shouted, and the black lightning energy in the sky swept up again. A huge ancient strange beast condensed around his body. This ancient strange beast was one of the top bloodlines of the absolute beginning divine realm, the Kirin strange beast. At this moment, this Kirin strange beast, which was completely formed by the black lightning energy, threw its head back and roared furiously, as if it was venting its unwillingness. In the next moment, the Kirin beast dashed out and fiercely collided with the huge palm print that descended from the void above. Boom! Boom! The world shook. The violent power formed a turbulent wave that swept out in all directions. The experts fighting on the surrounding battlefield were already quite far away from the place where Jian Wushuang and Palace Master Nan Wu were fighting. Logically, it should have been difficult for the battle between the two to spread to other battlefields. However, as the Kirin beast collided with the giant palm, the terrifying power swept in all directions. The battlefields that were closer to them were all swept away. These powerful great divine masters. They were so weak under the power that they were blown to all directions. It took them a long time to stabilize themselves. In the center of the battlefield. Pa! With a crisp sound, a crack appeared in the center of the Kirin-type exotic beast that was completely condensed from the black lightning energy. Then, the entire body of the exotic beast collapsed, and the black lightning energy that filled the sky also dissipated into thin air. Palace head Nan Wu's expression sank, and a mouthful of blood flowed out from the corner of her mouth. Her body also trembled slightly. However, the giant palm that had descended from the sky had completely dissipated. Injured? You actually injured me? Palace Master Nan Wu felt that her divine body had suffered some damage, An endless fury immediately surged in her eyes. A surge of shocking anger rushed to the sky and earth. "Don't worry, there's more." Jian Wushuang smiled coldly. "What?" Palace Master Nan Wu's expression changed and he raised his head again. As expected, a strong power slowly spread out from the lifelike scroll world above. Rumble. This power was obviously stronger than when Jian Wushuang had used the Divine Emperor Seal. Then, a huge palm appeared. It was much bigger and more powerful than before. Most importantly, when this huge palm descended from the scroll world, a huge figure appeared in the scroll world in the sky. It was an emperor wearing a royal robe and a crown. He was extremely tall, more than 1 million feet tall and more than 10 million feet tall. His figure was blurry, and his appearance couldn't be seen. However, the aura he carried seemed to attract people's attention. It was the aura of a true emperor. Only the emperors of heaven and earth, the rulers of the world, had the aura of a true emperor. And that huge palm was the display of this emperor's figure. It was the strongest two of the 3 seals of the 9 regions seal of the mountain and river map. The true emperor seal. Chapter 2798. So that was the end? There were 3 strongest seals in the 9 regions seal, namely the Divine Emperor Seal, the True Emperor Seal, and the Supreme Seal. All 3 seals needed to combine the 3 handprints of the 9 regions seal. Jian Wushuang had known about the existence of these 3 seals when he first obtained the mountain and river map. After studying them carefully, he had combined the first 3 moves of the 9 regions seal and mastered the Divine Emperor Seal. Over the years, as his strength continued to increase, his study of the 9 regions seal naturally deepened. Not long ago, he had already combined the 3 moves of the 9 regions seal and mastered the True Emperor Seal. Now, he had fully displayed the True Emperor Seal. In terms of power, the True Emperor Seal was much stronger than the Divine Emperor Seal he had just displayed. Rumble. The huge hand seal descended once again. That earth-shattering power suppressed everything below. Palace Master Nan Wu stood at the bottom of the hand seal, but his expression was extremely ugly. "There's still more?" Palace Master Nan Wu's heart trembled. Although he had used all his strength to block that hand seal, it had still injured him quite a bit. However, the power of this hand seal was clearly much stronger than the previous one. Even he felt an immense pressure under this hand seal. Humph! With a cold snort, the black lightning seal between Palace Master Nan Wu's brows once again flashed explosively. Vast and mighty black lightning strength once again spread out wildly. As the surging black lightning strength surged out, the black lightning seal between Palace Master Nan Wu's brows gradually dimmed. Finally, it completely disappeared. His eyes were bloodshot and his face was filled with madness. "Come on!" With a roar, the huge Kailin beast rose up again from the surface of Palace Master Nan Wu's body. In terms of size, this Kailin beast was even larger and more powerful than the previous one. Judging from Palace Master Nan Wu's flushed face, he had used all his means and trump cards in this move. This was also his strongest move. Jian Wushuang's killing intent was like a rainbow. The huge palm in the void came crushing down again, and in the blink of an eye, it collided with the Kirin beast again. Boom! This time, the terrifying boom had completely turned into a sonic boom, which resounded in the ears of all the experts on both sides. The many great divine masters who were fighting on the battlefield were affected by the impact and could not help but stop what they were doing. Numerous gazes filled with shock and astonishment looked towards the center of the battlefield. "Isn't this a little too strong?" The Dongfang clan head couldn't help but mutter. She was a genuine peak great divine venerate, but at this moment, the power that instantly erupted from the center of the battlefield caused his heart to tremble, causing her to tremble from the bottom of her heart. She even felt that if she was in the center of this power, she would probably be crushed into pieces by the violent power. In other words, the power in the center of the battlefield could easily kill ordinary peak great divine masters. Such a terrifying collision. Who will win and who will lose between these two? Many great divine masters muttered in their hearts. Before the start of the battle, they would have thought that Palace Master Nan Wu would win. After all, Palace Master Nan Wu was so famous that her strength had been recognized for many years. Jian Wushuang's rise was too short. Even if he had the battle strength of a peak great divine master, no one would really think that he could challenge Palace Master Nan Wu. But now that Jian Wushuang was fighting with Palace Master Nan Wu, No one dared to think that way anymore. The skills that Jian Wushuang displayed in this battle shocked everyone. In particular, the killing moves that he was using now were too terrifying. Boom! Boom! The sound of the explosions gradually faded, and the divine power that filled the sky gradually dissipated. Finally, the scene at the center of the battlefield appeared before everyone's eyes. In the center of the battlefield, in the air, Palace Head Nan Wu was still standing there. However, at this moment, the clothes on his body were in tatters, and there were even some cracks on the armor on his body. His armor and clothes were covered in blood. His face was deathly pale, and blood flowed out from both sides of his mouth. His hair was also extremely messy, especially his aura, which was obviously much weaker than when he was at his peak. Seriously injured. Palace Master Nan Wu is seriously injured. Many great divine masters from both sides were shocked to see this scene. Before the battle, they had never expected that Palace Master Nan Wu, who had always been known as invincible in the Pil Sun sacred world, would be seriously injured by Jian Wushuang in a head-on fight. Ha ha! A deranged laughter suddenly sounded. It was the heavily injured Palace Master Nan Wu who was laughing. Although he was seriously injured, his eyes were shining brightly and his face was full of madness. How many years has it been? How long has it been since I became invincible in the Pil Sun sacred world? Sword 1. Sword 1. You're the first person to force me to such an extent ever since I became invincible in the sacred Pil Sun world. I, Nan Wu, have to admire you. The technique you used just now was indeed extremely powerful. Unfortunately, it ends here. Palace Master Nan Wu's voice reverberated through the vast world. The great divine masters from both sides also sighed inwardly. They had to admit that Palace Master Nan Wu was the strongest person in the Pil Sun sacred world since the death of Sage Redstone. He had been invincible in the Pil Sun sacred world for many years and had experienced many battles along the way. However, very few people were able to injure him. There were even fewer who were able to seriously injure him and force him to such an extent. Jian Wushuang was the first. In the eyes of the surrounding experts, Jian Wushuang deserved to be proud even if he died. Is this the end? Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes slightly. There was a trace of unwillingness in his heart, but his gaze became a little misty. In the sword tomb below, divine swords were emitting unique and extremely powerful sword essence, which filled every corner of the sword principle world. Jian Wushuang's expression was cold, but his consciousness and soul power had already completely covered the entire sword principle world. At this moment, his body and mind had become one with the entire sword principle world, and even with every divine sword and sword essence in the sword principle world. Jian Wushuang immediately entered an extremely wonderful state. Sword 1. Surrender your life. Palace Master Nan Wu's killing intent soared, and the black thunderbolts on his body also soared. However, he once again crazily attacked Jian Wushuang. Chapter 2799. The 1,000 square-shaped ray. Although Palace Master Nan Wu was seriously injured and her strength was greatly reduced, her battle strength was still at the peak of the great divine master level, and her methods were extremely formidable. Under the cover of a large amount of black thunderbolt power, a huge thunderbolt beast appeared once again. This thunderbolt beast covered Palace Master Nan Wu's entire body. It roared and appeared in front of Jian Wushuang. Its bloody mouth had already opened. It was ready to swallow Jian Wushuang's entire body. But at this moment, Jian Wushuang, who had narrowed his eyes, suddenly opened them. A fierce light flashed in his eyes. Then Jian Wushuang attacked. He just attacked casually, looking like an ordinary person swinging a wooden sword. But when he swung his long sword, a sword light immediately lit up. This sword light was extremely weak, extremely dim, and incomplete. It was a broken light, a remnant light. However, when this remnant light appeared, in the blink of an eye, there were at least hundreds and thousands of scattered lights in the world. Under the gaze of Palace Master Nan Wu, the original Jian Wushuang suddenly became hundreds and thousands of people. Palace Master Nan Wu was shocked. The black thunder beast covering his body suddenly swallowed, but it had already lost its target. The swallowing did not even touch Jian Wushuang's clothes. Kai! The sound of the sword tip entering his body suddenly sounded. Palace Master Nan Wu felt a sharp pain in his waist, and then his eyes widened. This is... Palace Master Nan Wu turned his head with great difficulty and saw Jian Wushuang, who was still holding a long sword, standing behind him. Blood was flowing slowly on the body of Jian Wushuang's long sword. Ultimate skill. Palace Master Nan Wu murmured a few words, but his body had been divided into two parts, starting from his waist. In that moment, Jian Wushuang's Blood Mountain sword had cut through his body armor, which was already damaged. Palace Master Nan Wu's eyes dimmed, and his consciousness completely disappeared. In the blink of an eye, he was dead. Silence. In such a huge battlefield, if the experts from both sides were fighting crazily, it would be shocking and noisy. However, at this moment, the entire battlefield was completely silent, and everyone subconsciously stopped what they were doing. One by one, they looked in the direction of the center with shock and disbelief. In their sight, Jian Wushuang stood there calmly with a sword in one hand, and there was a cold corpse that had been cut into two pieces under his feet. That corpse was actually Palace Master Nan Wu's. Dead. Palace Master Nan Wu is dead? How is it possible? Impossible. This. An unprecedented clamor exploded in the void. The great divine masters from both sides were all shocked by the scene. It was Palace Master Nan Wu, the publicly acknowledged #1 expert of the Pill Sun sacred world. Before the battle began, none of them thought that Jian Wushuang could fight Palace Master Nan Wu head-on. Even if they could stop her, it was unlikely. But now, the result was right in front of them. Not only did Jian Wushuang completely stop Palace Master Nan Wu, but he also fought her head-on. They were evenly matched, and he used all kinds of killer moves to force Palace Master Nan Wu into a miserable state. Now, Jian Wushuang killed Palace Master Nan Wu out of everyone's expectations? How did he do it? Everyone was a little confused. Jian Wushuang, who was standing quietly beside Palace Master Nan Wu's corpse, had a strange smile on his face. The 8th move of space-time swordsmanship. I've been trapped for so long, and I've been studying it carefully for so long, but I've never been able to create it. I didn't expect to fight with Palace Master Nan Wu head-on today. With the support of the Sword Principle World, I used all my strength to fight with Palace Master Nan Wu. I found a special state and finally created the 8th move. Sure enough, only real combat is the fastest way to improve my strength. Jian Wushuang was also very happy. He had been stuck in the 7th move of the space-time swordsmanship for a long time. Before he came to the Danyang continent, he had already created the 7th move. However, after such a long time, he still could not create the 8th move. This move had been stuck for too long, but he had already begun to study and ponder it, he just could not really create it. However, today's battle had given him a rare opportunity. And he had perfectly grasped this opportunity. This sword move of mine seems to have thousands of rays of remnant light. Therefore, its name should be 1000 Rays of Remnant Light, Jian Wushuang muttered. From then on, the 8th move of the space-time sword art, 1000 Rays of Remnant Light, created by Jian Wushuang, was finally completed. Once the sword art was completed, he used it to kill Palace Master Nan Wu, who was seriously injured. It could only be blamed on Palace Master Nan Wu's bad luck to encounter Jian Wushuang, who was extremely talented in sword principle. If it were anyone else, even in the same situation, they would not be able to seize this opportunity to create a new unique move. After the unique move was completed, Palace Master Nan Wu was also killed. Jian Wushuang was overjoyed, but he knew the current situation. He quickly suppressed his joy and slowly looked at the other battlefields around him, his face darkened. Although he had won the battle, the other battlefields, except for Xianxia, were all at a disadvantage. It had been a long time since the battle began. Most of the great divine masters Xianxia had brought with her had used up their divine power. The others were almost exhausted and could not hold on much longer. The Sword Union was also at an absolute disadvantage. In this battle, both Dark Eagle and the junior Great Divine Master who had joined the Sword Union had died. More Great Divine Masters under Xianxia had died. On the other hand, not many Great Divine Masters from the alliance of the four forces had died so far. Fortunately, Jian Wushuang had dealt with Palace Master Nan Wu in time, so there was still room for improvement. If he had delayed any longer, Xianxia, the experts from the Cloud Mountain sect, and the Sword Union would have died in less than 15 minutes. Except for the few peak divine masters, all of them were probably dead. Watch me. Seeing the situation around him, Jian Wushuang's eyes suddenly turned cold. Boom! A majestic divine power suddenly erupted from Jian Wushuang's body like a volcano that had been silent for hundreds of millions of years. P.S. It's the 5th watch today. Chapter 2800, Ultimate Technique. The surging pure divine power formed a huge divine power sea in the blink of an eye. This divine power sea was boundless and contained too much divine power. It was completely beyond the imagination of all the great divine venerables present. How can there be such a huge divine power? Divine power sea, such a huge divine power sea? This divine power sea is emitted from Jian Yi's body? Such a huge amount of divine power, even a top-notch immortal saint is only so, right? A series of shocked voices sounded. The great divine paragons that were fighting on both sides were all staring at this burst of divine power sea with incomparable shock. And this vast god power sea swept out without restraint, engulfing the entire battlefield. Immediately after, the vast god power condensed into many large hands, crazily grabbing towards the experts of the allied forces. Damn it! What is he trying to do? The god power sea covers the entire battlefield. Could it be that he wants to fight against all of us by himself? The experts of the allied forces were stunned. They found that the divine power sea had completely isolated the entire battlefield and separated their opponents. Then, the giant hand formed by the divine power sea came to grab them. It was obvious that he was trying to fight against the entire allied forces. He's courting death. He doesn't know how to live. The experts of the allied forces were shocked and furious. They admitted that Jian Wushuang's divine power sea was vast. However, once it was formed and rushed toward them, it consumed a lot of divine power. They thought that Jian Wushuang would not be able to hold on for long. At most, his divine power would be exhausted in a moment. However, they did not expect that Jian Wushuang's divine power was so vast that it was ridiculous. Under the crazy impact of the divine power sea, it covered the entire battlefield and swept all the experts of the four forces. In the center of the divine power sea, Jian Wushuang directly attacked. Whoosh! He appeared directly in front of Ba Xiong as if he had teleported. Ba Xiong was also very powerful. He had always had the upper hand in the fierce battle with his companions. When he saw Jian Wushuang's arrival, his pupils suddenly shrank. He did not dare to be careless with Jian Wushuang, because they had killed Palace Master Nan Wu in front of Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang drew his sword. He drew his sword casually, looking like an ordinary person slashing a wooden sword. However, when he drew his long sword, an extremely weak, extremely dim, and obviously incomplete light immediately lit up. It was a streak of residual light. However, when this streak of residual light appeared, in the blink of an eye, there were at least hundreds and thousands of streaks of residual light everywhere. In Ba Xiong's eyes, there was only one Jian Wushuang in front of him, but now there were hundreds and thousands of them. It was the 8th move of the space-time sword art, thousand-sided residual light. It was the same sword move that killed Palace Master Nan Wu's sword move. Under the influence of the sword principle world, Jian Wushuang's sword principle and swordsmanship had been greatly improved, and this sword move had become even more mysterious. Ba Xiong subconsciously wanted to block the remnant light when he saw it, but suddenly, a trace of shock flashed in his eyes. The remnant light had already passed through his neck. Too fast. Ba Xiong's eyes were wide open, and his face was filled with unprecedented fear. However, his voice began to fade away. In the surrounding void, the great divine masters from both sides who saw this scene turned pale with fright. One sword killed a peak great divine master. How could Sword 1 be so powerful? The great divine masters were all trembling in their hearts. Previously, Jian Wushuang had used this move to kill Palace Master Nan Wu. However, because Jian Wushuang had used several killing moves in succession, Palace Master Nan Wu had been severely injured and died under this move. They did not know how powerful this move was. But now, with Jian Wushuang killing Ba Xiong with one move, no one dared to ignore his swordsmanship. The move he just made. Yin Sua stared at Jian Wushuang with a serious expression. The ultimate skill. It's definitely the ultimate skill. The ultimate skill. He created the ultimate skill, the life and death tower master screamed. The experts who knew what the ultimate skill represented were also shocked. When one's strength reached the Divine Lord level, most of them would start to create their own ultimate skills and ultimate moves. For example, the Kirin strange beast that Palace Master Nan Wu had used before, which was completely formed from black lightning, was extremely powerful. And ultimate skills also had different levels of strength. The ultimate skill referred to the ultimate skill at the Divine Lord level. To be called the ultimate, it was naturally the strongest and most tyrannical absolute arts. Absolute arts at this level were extremely powerful and terrifying, but it was also very, very difficult to create them. Palace Master Nan Wu had been invincible in the sacred Pill Sun world for so many years, but she still hadn't created an ultimate absolute art. This could be seen from this. In the absolute beginning divine realm, anyone who could create an ultimate absolute art was the most terrifying existence among the divine venerates. Although this existence couldn't compare to the undying sage, it was already completely above the great divine venerate. They even had a unique title, which was Invincible Divine Venerables. Invincible Divine Venerables were the invincible existences among the Divine Venerables. Each of them easily massacred a large group of Great Divine Venerables, or even peak Great Divine Venerables. They were absolutely the most terrifying existences among the Divine Venerables. However, there were too few such invincible Divine Venerables. Under normal circumstances, there might not even be one in a sacred world, like the Pill Sun sacred world. And even in the entire 9 realms of the Golden Crow, there were only a handful of invincible divine masters. But now, Jian Wushuang had created the ultimate skill. This meant that not only did Jian Wushuang have this terrifying ultimate skill, but his comprehension of sword principle and rule had reached the highest level that a divine master could reach. He was infinitely close to the immortal saint. If there was only one gap between him and the invincible divine master, it was the gap in divine power. After all, his divine power was only at the peak of the great divine master level. Even so, he could still easily kill a great divine master at the peak. Jian Wushuang moved through the battlefield like a ghost. The Blood Mountain sword in his hand was like the scythe of the god of death, casually brandishing it. Each of his strikes seemed to be casual. However, each of his strikes was extremely fast, so fast that the great divine masters could not even catch the sword shadow. Kai! 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 The sword light easily passed through the divine bodies or necks of the experts. Even with the protection of the body-protecting armor, the strangling power contained in it could not be resisted.